bag falls out, they've got these leaf magnets. They usually pick them up with that. Yep.
Are we live yet, Guy?
Trying to. It's trying to activate right now.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine. I just wanted to shut John down if we were. We are now, it says we're now live streaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Laurel had put on next door, she had posted something from the city, and it was interesting because talking about the trash pickup and how with the COVID-19 since March, the recycle and the regular trash is up 25% over
Mhm.
last year.
Wow.
Which makes sense when you think about all the people that are from home and all
Yeah.
the people that would normally go out to a restaurant to eat that are now taking out and now have all the trash
Yep.
in the yard. So along with the fact that the leaves all come down at one time and there's no getting around that.
Right.
Okay, we are live and we are at time.
All right, well then let's start the meeting as we'll just start the meeting and move on.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
Preparing to share my screen.
And we'll hang in there afterwards too.
Activating sharing. You guys should see the intro
do.
deck now.
We do.
Excellent. Let me just do this here. Okay. Okay. Thank you for logging in or watching online after the East Springfield Neighborhood Council Board meeting for December 1st, 2020. We want to hear from you. If you see this on our YouTube page, if you could hit subscribe while you're there, that would be fantastic. If you're on our Facebook page, if you're part of Facebook and you haven't liked the page yet, if you could like the page, that would also be great. We could be contacted through our website at myesnc.com, our email at contact@myesnc.com, or any of these other sources. That being said, I am going to turn the meeting over to our council president, Kathy Brown, and we will get the show started.
Thank you, Guy. Again, welcome to the East Springfield Neighborhood Council Board meeting for December 2020. Let us please start with a pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the
United States of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Okay, well, we have on our agenda tonight, it's a fairly short agenda, but as Guy said, we do want to hear from you. And if you are on our Facebook Live, if you just type in some questions, we'd be glad to take them before our meeting is over, or you may email them to us. We are all neighbors working together, and that's the only way we're going to make our neighborhood work. Our monthly conference calls with the Plaza Management continue. We are pleased to announce that the new people that we're working with have been extremely responsive. Is it perfect yet? No. Is it getting pretty good? Yes. The trash mostly is picked up. There have been a few illegal dumping situations that they have been on top of. They are actually looking at the plaza with a broader brush than has been looked at in a long time. They're looking at the roofing. They're looking at leaks in the buildings. They're looking at lighting. They're looking much broader than keeping some trash picked up. So we thank them for their cooperation and their communication, and we will continue to keep dialogue going with them. On that note, if there's anything that you notice that needs to be addressed, please send us an email, and we'd be glad to put it on our conference call list, or we'll connect with them even sooner than our conference call. City services, again, are still operating. And during, especially this COVID time, people have been using 311 extensively, and it's really working in that people are calling and issues or situations are getting documented and they're getting addressed. If you are going to call into 311, please try to get a ticket number so that you can follow up to if the progress isn't as efficient as you think it should be, or if you're having difficulty getting, noticing a change, you're welcome to give us an email and we'll be glad to follow up for you as long as you give us as much detail as exists. The former Serview building and the former party building at St. James Avenue and St. James Boulevard does have new owners. They did transfer the property just within the past week. And we did hear from Covest. They are the new owners and managing it. And John Koski tells me today he actually saw people in the building doing some deconstructing of some of the interior. So that's good because they told us middle of last week that we would see some activity there. If you notice, they've already taken a lot of the sumac out that has been around the back of the building that was next to it, that is next to it. So we're excited that blight, the former Serview building and that party building are being addressed. The Mass DOT 25% plan meeting has not been scheduled yet. It was supposed to be about the beginning of December, but that schedule has been pushed later. Again, we will let you know as soon. And if we do not have your email address and you want to be directly notified when this 25% meeting is happening, if you just send us an email with your email address and let us know that you want to be emailed informed, we'd be glad to do that. We will do the same thing we did last time, is reach out to all of the businesses in that St. James Avenue, St. James Boulevard, Cruz Street area to be sure that each of them has an opportunity. And there are quite a few residents that are right around there also. The Community Preservation Act projects, we've been advised the submissions for the next round is April 1st, 2021. So we've already as a group have been talking about Community Preservation Act projects. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, now is the time. The newsletter is out. Everybody for whom we have an address, snail mail address, we've mailed them to you. If you would like to look at it again, or if you've misplaced it, it is on our website. And we are expecting to do another communication newsletter type, probably February or early March. We don't usually do that many printed newsletters, but in light of the COVID situation, we feel it's extremely important to stay connected. And many people do not have the technology to join us, as those of you who are listening in tonight have. So we really want to keep our information fluid. East Springfield is a crime watch community. We have signs, about 15 or 18 signs around the perimeter of our neighborhood. Please, we're encouraging you to report all suspicious activity to 911 and to the non-emergency number as appropriate. We are hearing that people are seeing things and hearing things and they're going, I wonder if I should call the police. And then they're going, no, I don't want to bother them. Please bother them. Pick up a phone, call the police, let the police decide if it's something that's important. Over the past week and a half or 2 weeks, there have been some people who have heard some what they thought were shots fired sounds, and they some did and some did not call in. It's very helpful to the police to call those calls in. So please. Guy, are there any questions that are coming up at this point? Guy?
He was muted.
Oh, he was muted. That's okay, sorry.
I was hiding in the background while you were talking.
Okay, are there any questions on the board right now?
Yeah, one person was reporting that Angelina Park, the slide is now broken, the metal slide. So it may need to be replaced in the spring or repaired. I don't know what's damaged with it, but the person who asked the question on the feed, I can see Kathy making a note of that right now.
Yep.
And I see Marie typing a note. So it will be followed up on.
Okay.
The next thing is somebody was asking, I know it's at the police beat meeting, but if there was any information about the gunshots Saturday night off of Page Boulevard around midnight?
There is no current information right now, but we will absolutely have it addressed at the beat management team meeting. And if we can get some additional information before that, we will reach out. I do know that on Nextdoor, a few people were asking questions about that, and it's been in my on my radar. If we can get some clarity, that we will reach out to those people prior to the meeting.
Kathy, I am hearing from the police that there were people on dirt bikes.
Oh, okay. And that's, so people.
One of the times I reported it on Sunday, they said that they were aware of the kids on dirt bikes.
On dirt bikes using firearms?
Yes,
Okay,
At midnight?
yes.
yes. Yeah.
Really? My neighbor from Canada heard it. She's
Okay.
just visiting.
All right. So where was she physically located, Marie?
Right next door to me.
Oh, okay.
On
All right.
Redlands, she heard
Okay.
it.
So again, point of the story is if you hear anything, please call the police so that the police can use it. Sometimes they will get a call for shots fired, but they only get one call or two calls from exactly the same location. But if they can get a call from another location, they can triangulate where some of this is going on. So it is very helpful.
Well, it didn't wake me up.
Okay.
Okay, so the other thing was, there was more information on the slide. Apparently it was taken away, so that could be related to the fact, like, they took the basketball hoops down to avoid basketball. I don't know, Kathy, do they normally take the slide down in the winter, or is it?
No.
So it
Well,
may,
I'm sorry, they were in there this weekend. They cleaned the whole park of leaves. They had all kinds of trucks in there when I went by.
Yep.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if they took something down or they noticed it, but there were many vehicles in there cleaning up.
We're talking Angelina Park now.
Right.
For you
Yes,
who
yes.
don't know which park we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it was reported to me, and Lynn reported it also, that it looks really good. And I'm so pleased that it's been taken care of, because if those of you who have been around for a while, and it's many of you on the screen, remember the days 3-4 years ago, we were out there cleaning it every year.
Yeah.
The leaves were a complication. So we're delighted that it's getting cleaned up. But in the past, we've managed to get the new swing set in there, some new trash cans, some new picnic tables and benches. So we'll take a look and see what's going on with that broken slide and see if it can't get it repaired or maybe replaced.
okay, perfect. And then the next one, somebody asked how to get on the mailing list. You can either, I wouldn't put your email in the feed just in case. So you can private message us through Facebook, or you can send us an email at contact@myesnc.com, or you can, there's a contact form on the website at myesnc.com, or you can message us through the Facebook or the YouTube page. So any of those places, and we'll add you, be happy to add you to the list. The other thing was, somebody asked about what types of projects are being discussed for the Community Preservation Act, which I know I don't even think we've started planning yet, so probably taking suggestions, right?
Yeah, I think at this point, we'll take some suggestions. There are some suggestions from last year, some projects from last year, the Marshall Roy Field spray structure. And then we were talking about a study for some capital improvements in the neighborhood. But right now we're at grassroots. So if you have an idea, send it along and we'll go from there. If you want to talk with us privately, you certainly can do that also.
Okay, and then question wise, I think we are caught up. Lots of comments on the dirt bikes, and I know there's a lot of activity around that. Hopefully, I hate snow, but hopefully it slows down somewhat there. But if anyone sees anybody, the biggest thing they ask for, if you see where they're coming from, let the police know so they can check that. And then somebody asked about a dog park. I know there's not a plan for anyone in this area, but there is a dog park going in Springfield. Do you remember where that's going in,
I
Kathy?
think they were studying two different locations. I think the last Community Preservation Act funded a study to look at two different locations to see what was more appropriate. In my memory, one was out towards 16 acres and one was sort of towards Liberty Heights, but I do not remember the exact locations.
Are you thinking the dog park or the dirt bike park?
Oh, I'm talking dog park. Are you saying dirt bike park?
No, dog park. I thought I saw that they had started construction on it, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll
We'll find that out. Let's find that out. We won't speculate. I know there's a Community
Yeah.
Preservation Act meeting going on right now. It just popped up on my screen. Okay, well, let's move along and we'll take some more questions in a little bit. COVID is on our list here. Please, everybody, if you have any questions or need information on COVID, the CDC has information, the state has information, City of Springfield has information. We put that City of Springfield contact information right on the screen. So all I can say is be safe. We're fortunate tonight to have with us Senator Eric Lesser, and he's going to take over the meeting for a little while. Senator, we're pleased that you were able to join us tonight. We know you've been busy, but welcome to East Springfield.
Thanks so much, Kathy. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
And everybody can see me?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Zoom check. Yeah. So first, just thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate the invitation, and I'm sorry that I had to reschedule from the other one. We've had a kind of chaotic session schedule over the last several weeks, but it's really great to be here. I would really love to just kind of have a conversation and answer questions, but I can update everybody on a few things. So first, it's music to my ears to hear the Community Preservation Act conversation, because we've been a big proponent over several years of getting the funding and the match from the state expanded for that program. And really everywhere I go, all the communities I represent, you can really see the difference that the Community Preservation Act funding makes. And on the point of dog parks, just because I heard you talking about dog parks, but we were very involved in getting money from the state for a dog park on Westover Road in Chicopee. Now I know that's not very close. It's not too far, but not very close to everyone on this call. But it was a good lesson, we learned a lot from that process in terms of getting the money and helping the city get it open. So, hoping and looking forward to the ones opening in Springfield too. So, I mainly just wanted to get across a few things. First, I know this is a very, very hard time for everybody with COVID-19, with the remote schooling, with, all of the challenges that the pandemic has brought. We're really laser focused in the Senate on getting as much aid and as much help as possible to our communities, specifically to Springfield. We were able, even in a very, very hard budget year, to actually get a slight increase in the local aid for Springfield in the budget that we're finalizing right now. We were also able to get a slight increase, not as much as we wanted, but given the year we're facing, we did get an increase for the Springfield schools as well, which I do think is going to go a long way, especially in a hard period. And we have some very exciting news looking to the future on rail service. People may have been following this, but the MassDOT feasibility study on East-West Rail, of course, Springfield is central to that. It's going to come in and out of Union Station. Just to catch everybody up, the state feasibility study is nearing completion. It's going to be done by the end of this year. Once that state feasibility study is done, then a very long process will begin, of course, of securing the money. The money is likely going to come in a combination of both state and federal support. We, of course, have worked very closely with our federal delegation, Congressman Neal, Senator Warren, Senator Markey. They're all, of course, very enthusiastic supporters. We now have Joe Biden, who is a big train buff, who's going to be taking over in January. So I dare say the stars are aligning. I do maintain hope that we can get an infrastructure bill, both on a state level and then with support from Washington, that can make rail service between Springfield and Boston a reality, which would be an absolute game changer for our economy here, and something that I think will be a very needed boost coming out of COVID-19. We're also very focused on vaccine distribution. I actually had a briefing earlier today. The state, if all goes according to plan and the FDA does its final approvals, the state will be getting its first shipment of COVID-19 vaccines by the end of the year. It might actually even be within a few weeks. The first people to get the vaccine are going to be frontline healthcare workers and nursing home workers and nursing home patients, and then they're going to kind of work out from there. So it's going to be a while, it sounds like, until people can kind of walk into a CVS and get one or go to your doctor's office. But I do think that it will begin to help give us a path out once that vaccine is out and starting to get distributed. And I know the state is where, and our Department of Public Health is working pretty aggressively on that. I've been tasked with leading the economic policy response to all of this in the state Senate, and we're finalizing negotiations on an economic development bill that would include actually hundreds of millions of dollars in authorizations specifically for our small businesses, and specifically targeted at communities that have been the most impacted by COVID-19, and Springfield would absolutely qualify for that. So we're hoping that that can get done soon, which would bring a lot more relief to our small businesses and to our workers, and hoping, of course, for just some better news for everybody all around in 2021. I will stop talking because I want to take questions, and I'm sure people have want to have a back and forth, and that's probably more interesting anyway. But just want to say thank you to the East Springfield Neighborhood Council and to the board. I know this has been a hard time. Please don't be shy about sharing with me or our team. Jennifer from my office is on as well, about how we can be helpful, ideas you have. We really rely on feedback from the community to do our jobs. So, and I want to thank you, Kathy, for the work you've done and for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to talk to everyone.
Okay.
So I have a couple things that came in from the website. Somebody said that thank you for the information about the dog park in Chicopee. They currently drive to Westfield, so they're happy that it's closer.
Terrific, yeah.
Another person who was happy because they used to go to Agawam, so that was good info. Let's see. Then the next one was they would love to see mental health programs in schools. Kids are struggling tremendously with homeschooling currently. Is there anything in the works for that?
So, first, I mean, as a parent myself, I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. The remote school is very hard. And I really, my heart goes out to the parents and to the grandparents and to the support networks for kids right now. And, frankly, we had a mental health crisis in our schools and in our communities before COVID-19, and it's just hypercharged it even more. So the Senate has passed several mental health bills that aim at things like parity and insurance coverage. Legally, you're supposed to not discriminate between mental health and physical health care for insurance coverage, but in practice, it doesn't often work that way. So we've worked very hard to try to create more parity in the laws, and we have a lot more we need to do on this. My mom is a clinical social worker. She worked in Holyoke as a social worker for 25 years. And so for me and in my family, sort of the mental health world is very personal to us. I do think another concern that we really need to keep our eyes on is the growing rates of suicide, which is unfortunately, again, was a very serious problem before coronavirus and has become even more significant in a really emergency in COVID-19. So we need to get more supports both to the schools and to the students and the families and the teachers and the staff that have also been impacted. But we also need to do more to get more broad mental health coverage into the broader community as well. So we've also worked with and we've tried to get more funding, for example, to our community health centers like Caring Health, which we know has done a lot around mental health coverage. We've tried to work with Bay State. An issue on mental health that I'm particularly focused on and concerned about is access to pediatric psychiatric beds. People have probably followed the closure of Providence behavioral health in Holyoke. That's created a crisis throughout the region because there are more than 50 beds that got taken offline from that closure. And there's an even bigger shortage of mental health beds now. And we had a very bad shortage even before that closure. So we've worked, for example, with the hospitals to try to get more beds open and get more funding for those beds open. So no, absolutely, it's on my radar. And this is an example of an issue that we had in a very serious way before COVID that is now exponentially worse as a result of COVID.
So Eric, I speaking from personal experience with my daughter, 16 years ago, there were very few beds available in Western Mass, and they've gotten rid. Now most people have to go to Boston. Working at the high schools in Springfield, I saw students sent out to the eastern part of the state. They have family that have no transportation. Their children were sent to hospitals on the other side of the state. They had no way to visit them, to have any contact with them. I just don't understand why Western Mass has been shortchanged so many beds. I know we don't have the population that Boston has, but we have a serious problem here, and it's not right.
No, I mean, it's frankly a disgrace. It was bad 16 years ago, and it's only gotten worse. I mean, an example, a woman literally died being transported to Plymouth, where there was a detox facility for her away from her home in Western Mass. She was, in transport on the Mass Pike and died. No person should have to be driven 90, 100 miles when they're in crisis. It's inhumane and it's wrong. The heart of the issue, frankly, is that the insurance companies and Mass Health is not reimbursing enough. There's really two big issues. One is that the insurance companies and Mass Health are not paying enough to keep the beds open. And the second issue is we have a crisis we have a shortage of licensed personnel. They're not paid enough. It's a burnout job because people aren't given enough support. They're not given enough time off, things like that. And the licensing agencies are not licensing enough practitioners for Western Mass. So what ends up happening is it's this combination of they don't have enough money to support the beds, they don't have enough staff to staff the beds, and things deteriorate. So we've passed through the Senate a series of bills to streamline that licensing process, to open up more licensing, to raise the pay for the staff, so that more people can go into that field and it can be sustainable for people. And we've also done our best to try to get that reimbursement rate up. But it's a major problem. I mean, I really can't overstate the crisis that we're feeling as a result of that closure in Holyoke, because it's permeated the entire region. Just to give you an example, I have constituents calling, and I'm sure you've heard the similar things. These are kids, 14, 15 years old. They're sitting in the hallways of the emergency rooms for days, sometimes weeks, because they can't get them placed in a bed. It's a disgrace. We need more money, and we need the state to be more equitable in how they're distributing that.
Thank you. That's informative. That's informative.
Yeah, but I mean, I would just say, I know, just on a kind of constructive, the places that I think we got to zero in on are the licensing issue, the insurance reimbursement issue, and the staffing from psychiatrist level, MD level, all the way through the whole staff. There's a lot of stress, and there's not enough support for that workforce to be able to get the capacity that we need.
Mm-hmm. So if we were able to increase the capacity, do you think more people who have the skill, the talent, the staff would move to this area in order to staff these locations? Because I'm feeling like we might have a staffing void
Yep.
also.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. So like, just as an example, like I had a meeting with a local healthcare provider that was dealing with this issue. And what they were saying to us is that because of the shortage of staff, they were having to bring in like temporary temps, like they had to bring in temp psychiatrists or others. First off, they have to pay, it's much less efficient because you have to pay a daily rate that's much higher than if you had people on staff. It's not as good for continuity of care because it's a different person every day coming in. They're often brought in from far away. You know, they come from Boston or they're coming from other regions. So, I think that's exactly right. Frankly, I mean, I'm a big booster of Western Mass. I think it's a great place to live. So I think if we paid people, if we had the positions open, if we advertised it well, I think people would come here. And then you're getting a twofer because you're getting a skilled person to help with the mental health issues, and you're having someone buying a home, paying taxes here, supporting the economy here, and that helps also.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Guy, anything else on the screen?
Yep. So along the lines of mental health, has any funding or projects been dedicated to people suffering from drug addiction? The overdose rate is rising, even more so with COVID happening, and typical ways to obtain recovery has been halted, delayed, or changed.
Yeah. So I mean, this is something I feel very passionately about. When I was elected in 2014, we were really in the midst of an unprecedented public health crisis around heroin and substance use, specifically around heroin. And opioids more broadly. But if people remember, back in 2014, the governor at the time declared a public health emergency around the opioid epidemic. We were making progress. I don't want to overstate that because it was halting progress, but there had been progress in terms of getting the overdose rates down, getting the death rates down. I would point out that the progress was not universal. For example, in the Hispanic community, the rates were actually continuing to go up. And in many of our gateway cities and our Western Mass cities, in Greenfield, in Holyoke, and in several other communities, the rate was also continuing to go up. So the progress was uneven, and we needed to do a lot more. And then the pandemic hit. And unfortunately, we know that substance abuse and substance use disorder, especially opioid use disorder, is a symptom often of loneliness and of isolation, and COVID is only exacerbating that. So I'm very concerned about this. We've worked with our public health agencies and our mental health providers on trying to do check-ins, trying as much as possible to keep the care going. But a lot of the support networks, even things like, a meeting like this, doing a support group through Zoom is not going to be the same as everybody in a room together. So this is going to be a major challenge for us moving forward, and it's something we've got to stay focused on.
There was a follow-up comment to that, that for the mental health aspect, can local mental health programs like CHD, MNH, or BHN be brought in to help with support in schools?
I think that's a great idea. We work closely with BHN and MHA and Gandara and CHD. I mean, we do have a lot of really skilled, really good human service and mental health providers in Western Mass, which we're lucky to have. They need more support. We need more capacity for them, but the people that we do have in this field do a really good job. So I do think moving forward, we should think about ways to help build more capacity at the schools. To help do more social emotional development. I think especially after kids come back after being home and having done remote school for so long, there's going to be a lot of mental health and social and emotional support that we're going to have to be very aggressive about addressing. So I think that's a great idea. Okay.
The next question was, sorry, it jumped back, scrolling. Is there anything planned to help with crumbling foundations? I asked the follow-up on what exactly foundations they were talking about. I maybe like roads or infrastructure.
I think they're talking about the crumbling home foundations issue. Is that? Yeah, we've been working on that for a while. Yeah. So just so that so people who might not be familiar with this issue. So there was a quarry, a concrete quarry in Connecticut owned by a company called JJ Moats. Unknown to people at the time, at least to the homeowners at the time, the concrete that was being used to pour their foundations included a chemical called pyrite that when exposed to moisture actually physically caused cracking. So in many cases, the quarry closed many years ago. People who had had homes that they've been living in for 15, 20 years, they were noticing these literally the foundations of their houses, they were noticing cracking through the foundations. And this is a devastating issue because in order to fix it, you have to literally lift the house on stilts, excavate all of the concrete, re-pour new concrete, and put the house back down. I mean, it costs $150,000, $200,000 at least to do that. It's devastating for people. To add insult to injury, they would go to their homeowner's insurance, and the homeowner's insurance companies have been denying their claims because the homeowners insurance companies have said that their claims don't cover foundations, go figure. And then people would go to a bank. Most people don't have $200,000 lying around, so you need a loan to get that money. But the collateral most people have is their house, but their house isn't worth anything because it's crumbling.
Mhm.
So this has been a horrific situation for the families that have been impacted. We got money and we got additional money. I work with a colleague, Ann Goby, who is our neighbor to our east. She's from Spencer. She comes as far west as Palmer. But we've been working with her on funding for a testing program to kind of get a sense of the scale of the issue. Eventually, I think we're going to have to do something that was done in Connecticut, which was to create some sort of state insurance vehicle to help these families get the foundations fixed. But it's been a very, very difficult process, and unfortunately, I think that it's still a ways away from resolution.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, that, I know it's a very daunting but I really feel for the families. I would encourage people who are concerned about this, reach out to my office. Jennifer's on the call also, but we have been working on this for several years with the impacted families, and so we can help connect them with some state resources and some other materials.
Thank you.
And if anyone's trying to follow up with the senator afterwards, his contact information is listed on this slide, which will also be found in the minutes section of our website. You can grab the email and the number from there. Most of the other comments at this point were thanking the senator for coming tonight, the areas of attention for the East-West Rail, the discussion on mental health.
Rally for rail. I keep that up for motivation. Rally for rail.
There's just a lot of likes and thank yous on that. Also, somebody who was new to the neighborhood, they bought their home here in July. They're excited to find out what's going on. I welcome them, and they said to say, "Hi, Eric from Jesse and James." I don't know if there's somebody else watching that they're saying hi.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
But, hi, Eric. Okay, Senator Eric Lesser. Okay, from Jesse and James. So
Nice.
they now live in East Springfield, apparently.
All right.
And that's all the comments. There was one comment that wasn't related to the senator's questions. I replied back. It was for something for the Springfield Police Department. I told them we'd forward that information on for the follow-up of the police beat meeting.
What, yeah, was that the one that having to do with the breaking into the cars over on 2nd Street?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And we have had conversation with the police about that, and we are continuing conversation, but thank you for bringing it back to our attention.
And I have a couple questions, if I may.
Sure, John.
An issue that comes up in our neighborhood quite frequently is the issue of speeding and just reckless driving. And I know it's an issue in a lot of communities, but for us in East Springfield, we are a community that people travel through to get to I-291 and other communities. So we host a few major, what I would call major streets in the neighborhood. And with that, we have done some things as a neighborhood to try to address the speed on our streets. We've we have available for our neighbors to put out on their lawns, drive like your kids live here, trying to get as many of those as we can around the neighborhood, just to remind people to be thinking about their speed. We partner with the Springfield Police, and we do standouts on along the street in some of our more prone areas. We stand with the police, and police do radar enforcement while we check their speed signs to try to remind our neighbors and folks passing through the neighborhood to slow down. And we've even been able to work with a local company and get a grant from them to go out and buy 3 radar solar powered radar speed boards to put in our neighborhood to remind people. So I think from a neighborhood, we do everything that we possibly can to address the situation, but we have our limits, and it seems like when we start talking about this with folks, be it at the city level or at the state level, it kind of falls on deaf ears. It's not, with all the issues, I suppose, that we're working with, maybe traffic on our streets and speeding and some of the reckless driving doesn't bubble up to be one of the top issues. But if you live here and you live on a busy street, it's something that you're thinking about every day. For instance, in our neighborhood, we've had 4 homes within a block of our house that have been hit multiple times by vehicle crashes. In some cases, the houses have had to be they've been condemned and they had to be rebuilt. And we live on a 30-mile-an-hour street. So with all that, I guess there's a couple things I'm asking is much help as we can get with funding to do more enforcement activity. That's not the total solution, but getting funding so that we can have ongoing enforcement, police enforcement, and those kinds of initiatives to help us with the issue. Is there funding that we have access to where we can get more radar speed boards put into our neighborhood? And yeah, I guess those were the 2 things around that area. The third thing is, I understand at the state level that there's some conversation going on about changing the procedure or the protocol or the way that street limits are determined on streets to a more I'm going to call it a more reasonable approach. Apparently, the way our speed limits are assigned to our streets is that a study is done on the actual speeds that are being driven by vehicles on the street. And then the speed limit is based on what the average vehicle goes on that street, thinking that the average driver is driving a safe speed limit. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, that they're looking at changing that in the state to something that's more around, I guess, a more engineered safety standard versus what we're actually driving. And case in point would be Page Boulevard from I-291 out past the Bulk Mail Center, where the speed limit is anywhere from 30 to 40 miles per hour. And we have tried to get that speed limit changed because we've had some severe issues on that street. But every time we try to address that issue, we're told, well, we're doing a speed study, and then where it's explained to us, well, we have to be careful about doing a speed study because the way we have to assign the speed limit is based on what the actual average speed is of traffic, of cars being traveling on the street. So the 3 issues are, is there more funding that we can get for more police enforcement for our speeds? Is there funding that we could get so we can do more things like radar speed boards? And what can we do to change how we're assigning speed limits to streets?
Yeah, great point. So, just zooming out for a second. First, I actually don't know. It's a great question, how the speed limits get set. I assume that there's probably a difference between the state routes and the state roads. and the local roads, but happy to work on that or look into that. Cause yeah, I don't exactly know how that process works. I'm sure MassDOT has some sort of criteria that they use. But what I will say is kind of pedestrian safety, vehicle safety is a big priority. I am vice chair of our transportation committee, and we've worked, for example, on the Safe Streets initiative, which Springfield has been a recipient of. And we've worked, for example, to get funding to the city to do better markings for crosswalks, to improve interchanges and safety at lights. So for example, like where the old Gus and Paul's used to be, that whole intersection got reworked. There's a traffic update happening at the X. We worked on, and it's ongoing, but a whole revision of the intersection, by Western New England where the hot table is.
Mhm.
And that's ongoing. That announcement was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. So hopefully it'll be done soon. So the sort of high level answer is yes, it's a priority. It's a major quality of life issue. It's a significant safety issue. I also do think some of this is connected to iPhones and smartphones. And so we did pass we strengthened our distracted driving law. We did this about a year and a half ago, give or take. And that law is much easier to enforce and much clearer now, which is that you can't use your phone when you drive unless it's wireless. It used to be no texting, and that was the feedback we got from law enforcement, was that was hard to enforce. How do you know if someone's texting or not versus doing something else? So now all of it, you can't do anything. You can't check Instagram, can't check your email while you're driving. Keep the phone down and stay focused. So I think, I think that the game plan should be like a combination of continued enforcement of the distracted driving law, continued just physical improvements to the streetscape, slowing the traffic down, being clearer about the pedestrian areas, making the lights and the interchanges clearer, and then this feedback that you're giving about the way the speed limits are set is interesting. Yeah, I don't know how it's a great question. I never really thought about it, how the speed limits get set on a street. So happy to work with you on that. Because I would say that one of the other goals we've had has been encouraging more bicycle usage, more pedestrian usage. We've worked on the Valley Bikes initiative. You can't get people riding bikes and out on the street if it's unsafe, and if there's speeding, and if there's reckless driving happening like you're describing. So I think all of these things do they overlap on each other, and they need to be viewed in a holistic way.
Senator, we'd love to have another conversation with you, maybe in a more targeted form on this, because this Drive a Safer East Springfield, this whole area has been something that we've really been focused on for a long time, and we're trying to get it to gel. And that's why we're very excited that the 25% plan for St. James Avenue, St. James Boulevard is forthcoming. And that's the day that plan actually gets the public meeting happens, will be a real benchmark for us.
Yeah, and I really view my role as sort of backing you up, because the way the state helps with the money, but it's really a local planning process that's driven by the city, by the police department, by the residents. So just communication to me is helpful about which projects are high priority. We were fairly involved with the X. We were fairly involved with the project, by the old Gus and Paul's. We were very involved with the project, by the hot table, at Western, where the Western New England intersection is. So, so we learned a lot from those processes and from those examples of kind of how to help. So, please don't be shy about communicating. I'm happy to do a sort of separate session that's more focused on that.
Okay, thank you. That would be helpful, don't you think, John?
Just one other question. I've just seems like when it comes to curb appeal on our state streets, in particular I-291, it seems like there's a disproportionate level of maintenance given to I-291 and the exit ramps versus when I drive up through Northampton.
Right.
You know, I go up to Northampton, I see the amount of time where we got, you know, state trucks out there, they're picking up trash, they're mowing the lawn, they really take really good care of Northampton up through Deerfield, Whately, up through that area. And I-291 maybe gets hit, you know, with trimming and mowing and things like that, maybe
Mhm.
Yeah.
maybe once or twice or half as many times as they're getting it up there. And I just don't quite understand why it's so disproportionate.
Oh, don't get me started on this because no, I think you're absolutely right to point this out. I mean, we've had issues with the lights, you know, the Longmeadow curve, you know, on I-91 where those lights are always out, you know, and it's a very dangerous curve. You know, that whole stretch of I-91 from like the Connecticut border in Longmeadow through Springfield, through Chicopee, like really up like basically until the Northampton border where you've got 291, 391, the split exit for Dwight. I mean, all of that is a mess. And that's the state. The state needs to do a better job. I mean, mowing the lawn in the medians, keeping the lights, you know, from burning out. Like that stretch of I-91 and all of those connected ramps and interchanges is not maintained adequately. And so if you spot things, if you see them, you know, tell us, because we do send that to MassDOT. You know, we send that to our contacts there, and you know, they at least, you know, I think it's important for us to keep records of that, frankly, and to be getting that to them and to be continuing to make the case on keeping it in better shape.
We will
And
do that.
even just the embankment, you know, I don't mean to go on about this, but you know, the embankment, you know, on I-91, like by the Hall of Fame and on Columbus Ave, you know, that whole embankment there, it's like they don't mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Like, you know, on the grass on that embankment, and you know, thousands of people use it. Thousands of people go up and down there. You know, it's right next to downtown. It's a major entry and exit point for the city. They've got to do a better job maintaining that.
I mean, we've actually taken upon ourselves to try to do some cleanup of some of the state property, which we shouldn't have to do. Number one, it's not safe. It's not
Right.
safe. But it's
I
very
am grateful for that, but yeah, it's not
As
your
John
job. Yeah.
said, curb appeal, we've been really concerned about curb appeal in our neighborhood. It's an economic development issue. It's for, you know, people moving into the city. It just covers such a broad base. So between that curb appeal and the traffic and the safety, we've got our arms around it, but we just need a little help in hugging it tight.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, please, you know, and you know, let myself know, let your state rep know, let you know, Senator-elect Adam Gomez, once you know, he'll be in January. So, you know, we all, and we worked with Jim Welch on it. We, you know, we're all united on this. So it's really about just
Okay.
tell us, and you know, and we'll get that to MassDOT.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just two things to cover. A couple people were asking about how to get the signs. I put up the slide while John was talking with the contact information on how to get the Drive Like Your Kids Live Here signs.
Perfect.
Those will also be on the website, and will still be on the Facebook video after this is done. Someone had asked about what studies had been done with traffic and calming measures, and for our areas that John had mentioned. One thing you can look at on the website in the same file area is a copy of all of the plans that are proposed for the St. James intersection area, going up over by Big Y, over by the CVS, you know, that whole section, like how they're planning to cut out the roads and everything. So you could review that, and anyone with questions, feel free to reach out from all the different sources to any time, and we can have somebody reach out to you. John loves to talk about traffic calming. Yeah, so, you know, we'll set up a Zoom. You guys can have a couple hours, you know.
But Guy, to your point, the 25% plan is on our website and on the state website, and it's really interesting to look at. I mean, it's 112 pages, but if you look at the first 5 or 6 pages, you'll get a good flavor of exactly what it's going to look like, because you really don't need to know Most of us don't need to know all of the signalization engineering, but it's just the first 4 or 5 pages. So don't let the 112 pages frighten you. Just take a look at it, please.
And the last thing that came up was someone wanted to report that there's a lot of garbage dumping happening on Bircham Street.
Okay.
We could take a note of that. They were asking if there's a way to get a camera. We will take a note and follow up. We have the information here. And also the person who moved in July, they said they're going to become fast friends with you, John, talking about
Okay,
all the
good.
traffic things.
To the person who's talking about Bircham Street, if they could give us the specific address, I know it's a short street, and or call in 311 and let 311 know it's there. That way it will put the city on the case, and they can figure out whether it's on private property, whether it's on some public property, and it will help move it along. And then we'll take a multi-prong approach, which will be helpful.
Yeah, and you don't have to put the address in the feed. You could send it to us through private
Right.
message on any of the
Right.
social media platforms, the website. I won't go through it again because I've already said it a few times.
Senator, anything else that you wanted to say before we sort of move it along?
No, I mean, I really just want to say thank you to everyone. I mean, I feel sad that we can't be all together, of course, but I know it's been a really hard time. It's been a tough year, so I'm hopeful that 2021 will be a brighter year for the world. But I just want you to know that we really wake up every morning trying to work on how we can bring more support, bring more help, do more for Springfield and for really all our communities in Western Mass. So, please just be in touch and let me know what's on your mind. But I just want to thank everyone because I know, everyone for all kinds of different reasons has had a very upside down year this year. So I just want you to know that I care about y'all and I appreciate how involved you've all been.
Okay, Guy, anything else, or are we good?
Nope. That is it. I brought up the last slide,
Right.
and I.
Want to address our Christmas?
Oh,
want to
okay.
address our East Springfield holiday Zoom gathering?
Yeah. So next in 2 weeks, it'll be a little different. The My ESNC online link will bring you directly to the Zoom invite page. The meeting ID and passcode is posted here on this invite. It'll be on our website. Everybody is encouraged to join in for the next one in 2 weeks. We're going to have a brief agenda. The police officers will be there. We'll go through some stuff quickly, but mainly it'll be, we used to have a holiday potluck that everybody would come into the building and we'd all bring a plate, but, hopefully everybody can raise a glass of cocoa or a coffee and we can say hi to everybody. And that'll be in 2 weeks. If anyone has any questions about how to access Zoom, feel free to send us information over the next week and a half. I'll reach out to you, touch base, so I can explain how to do it on iPads or phones or computers or whatever. And that's pretty much it. 2 weeks from now, the 15th at 6:30.
Okay, and can I add one thing? Thank you, Guy. I did skip it. Sidewalks. Many of us have been walking more in our neighborhoods, and we've noticed that sidewalks need to be repaired. In the last newsletter that went out by mail, we did send a sidewalk application to everyone. If you know us, if you see a sidewalk that needs repair, if you could email us the address, and we will make sure we mail to that property owner a sidewalk application. There's no charge to have the sidewalk done. It just needs to get on the city list and then get taken care of. So if you could just email us the address, I don't need the name or anything. I don't even need your name, just the address where we need to try to get a new sidewalk. We'll try to get that process going. Okay, and if there's nothing else, what I'd like to do is, if the board can hang in there for a little bit, but what I'd like to do is close the meeting. And Guy, just let us know when we're off.
Okay, 1 second here.